Mr. President, last week I spoke on the floor about a new report by the Bipartisan Policy Center. This report talked about the great progress that we've made so far in this Congress as far as getting things done in a bipartisan way. Well, I believe that's good news. Republicans in the Senate are committed to continuing our progress and to holding more votes on areas of bipartisan agreement. So I want to speak today, Mr. President, about something that senators on both sides of the aisle agree that we can do to protect America's navigable waters. Our rivers, lakes, and other waterways are among America's most treasured resources. In my home state of Wyoming, we have some of the most beautiful rivers in the world, the Snake River, the Wind River, dozens of others. The people of Wyoming are devoted to keeping these waterways safe and pristine for our children and our grandchildren. They understand that there's a right way and a wrong way to do that. It is possible to have reasonable regulations to help preserve our waterways, while at the same time allowing them to be used as natural resources. We've done it for years under the Clean Water Act. That's the right way to do it. The wrong way to do it is for Washington bureaucrats, unelectable, unaccountable, to write harsh and inflexible rules that could block any use of water or even use of land in much of the country. The Environmental Protection Agency and the Army Corps of Engineers have proposed a new rule that would expand the Clean Water Act in what I believe is a dangerous new direction. The rule is an attempt to change the definition of what the law calls waters of the United States. Under the rule, this term could include ditches. It would include dry areas where water only flows for a short time after it rains. Federal regulations have never before listed ditches and other man-made features as waters of the United States. What the administration is proposing now simply makes no sense. Under this new rule, the new rule they're proposing, isolated ponds could be regulated as waters of the United States. This is the kind of pond that might form in a low-lying piece of land with no connection to a river or a stream. It could be in someone's backyard. An isolated pond is not navigable water. That's not what the law was designed to protect. This is bipartisan, and there is bipartisan agreement that Washington bureaucrats have no business, none at all, regulating an isolated pond as a water of the United States. Under this newly proposed rule, agriculture water management systems could be regulated as waters of the United States. We're talking about irrigation ditches. An irrigation ditch is not navigable water. These are man-made ditches that people dig to move water from one place to another to grow crops. This kind of agriculture water is not what the law was designed to protect. There is bipartisan agreement that Washington bureaucrats have no business regulating an irrigation ditch as waters of the United States. Under this outrageously broad new rule, Washington bureaucrats would now have a say in how farmers and ranchers and families use their own property. It would allow the Environmental Protection Agency to regulate private property just based on things like whether it's used by animals or birds or even insects. It could regulate any water that moves over land or infiltrates into the ground. Well, this is an ominously far-reaching definition, and it is the wrong way to protect America's precious water resources. This rule is not designed to protect the traditional waters of the United States. It is designed to expand the power of Washington bureaucrats. Now, there's a better way to protect America's waters, and there is bipartisan support for it in this body. Today, I've introduced the Federal Water Quality Protection Act, along with Senators Donnelly, Inhofe, Heitkamp, Roberts, and Manchin. That's bipartisan. It's a bipartisan agreement that says we need a different approach. This bill says yes to clean water and no to extreme bureaucracy. It will give the Environmental Protection Agency the direction it needs, the direction to write a strong and reasonable rule that truly protects America's waterways, one that keeps Washington hands off of the things like irrigation ditches, isolated ponds, and groundwater. One that doesn't allow determinations to be based on plants and insects. One that protects streams that could carry dangerous pollutants to navigable waters, or wetlands that protect those waters from pollutants. It would make sure that Washington bureaucrats comply with other laws and executive orders that, well, they've been avoiding. They would have to do an economic analysis and conduct reviews to protect small businesses, to protect ranchers, to protect farmers. They would have to consult with the states. They have to make sure, by consulting with the states, that we've got the approach that works best everywhere, not just the approach that Washington likes best. Now the Environmental Protection Agency says that our concerns are overblown. The administration says that there's a lot of misunderstandings about what their regulation covers. It says that the agency has no intention of regulating things like I've just described. Key word there is intention. Well, this bill would help to make sure that the rules are crystal clear. It gives certainty and clarity to farmers, to ranchers, and to small business owners and their families. People would be able to use their property without fear of Washington bureaucrats knocking on their door. We would also be able to enjoy the beautiful rivers and the lakes that should be preserved and protected. This bipartisan bill does nothing to block legitimate protection of the true waters of the United States. It simply restores Washington's attention to the traditional waters that were always the focus before. That's what this law should protect. This bill is one easy thing that we can do to protect Americans from runaway bureaucracy. The Senate, Mr. President, has been very productive so far this year. We're going to keep going. We're going to go with more ideas that have bipartisan support. The Federal Water Quality Protection Act is one of them. I want to thank the many co-sponsors. Mr. President, I yield the floor.